Okay. Um, so last class we kind of finished our syllabus with regard to biblical preaching. We looked at some of the final comments of the teaching, how it should be. It can be like the 6 laws of dynamic Bible teaching, right? How it can be learner oriented, um, uh, expectation oriented, application oriented, and so on. So we looked at that. Now that brings us to the end of what we are covering. And of course, there's some overlapping information, like how to prepare your first few teachings and all that. So uh, you can just go through it. It's more like an appendix actually, so you can just read through it. Okay, so today just wanted to share one more video. Remember last class we looked at the video, and then we also kind of shared our observations on it. So a video from TED Talk, right? So if you recall, it was about community and some very important thoughts on community that the person shared. And it was, if you look at the duration of the whole video, it's about maybe 20 minutes or maximum. I think it was about 18 minutes. But, the information was shared, which was very impactful, right? And he shared some personal stories. He shared something from history, uh, and so on. So it's talking about beloved community, creating a beloved community, and really something very close to. It was not a religious talk, definitely not a church or a ministry, but obviously the person was someone who was. We don't know. I don't know whether the person was a believer or anything, but he would, go to churches, attend churches. So he spoke from that background, right? Um, so certain things we noticed that very, very precise. There was something new thoughts, new ideas that you were sharing. There was a PowerPoint presentation, a visual aid which helps. So it could be it could be an audio visual aid. Um, that will always help. If it's a video, it will help also. But then he used a PowerPoint, a visual aid. We also saw that the kind of matter that was put on the PowerPoint, that was the text was very minimal, right? Just to aid presentation that he was making. It was very minimal. It kind of enhanced the whole presentation. It was a lot of visuals were used. Of course, the topic was such that you could actually do that. So a lot of visuals were used, and we also noticed that he didn't carry any notes with him, right? Which really made it even more impactful, right? But of course, it was a small talk, so he could actually afford to do that. But it was a lengthy thing with a lot of references and a lot of material. Then obviously having notes would help so that you don't miss out on anything. But having said that, it also helped. It also helps if you're not tied down to the notes. Like if you're not tied down to following the notes, because then time and again you'll be tempted to read from the notes rather than speak to the audience, right? So we saw that. We also saw that when it came to like eye contact and body language, saw that he looked at everyone. He was not fixed on one particular place. He was looking, engaging with each and every person in the audience, right? It was obviously it was a sizable crowd, but he was engaging with each and everyone, and his body language was very confident and relaxed, right? He was not nervous, fidgeting, doing something, arranging his shirt or button. He was not doing anything which showed any nervousness. And the way he spoke, it was audible, loud, clear, simple language which everybody could listen, everybody could understand, right? Also spoke about application and all that. Okay. So today we'll also take some time to watch one more video, and maybe you can share some thoughts on it, um, and your observations about it. So you can take notes, see what you've, the positives of it, maybe some negative things that also you can observe, and you can share that as well. Okay, I'm just going to. There's some noise outside. I'm just going to close that window. Give me a minute, please. Okay. I hope that's better. Okay, so let's watch the video, and then we will discuss it once we're done. Right? Okay.
So in college, I was a government major, which means I had to write a lot of papers. Now, when a normal student writes a paper, they might spread the work out a little like this. So, you get started maybe a little slowly, but you get enough done in the first week that with some heavier days later on, everything gets done and things stay civil. And I would want to do that like that. That would be the plan. I would have it all ready to go, but then actually the paper would come along, and then I would kind of do this. And that would happen every single paper. But then came my 90-page senior thesis, a paper you're supposed to spend a year on. I knew for a paper like that, my normal workflow was not an option. It was way too big a project. So I planned things out, and I decided I kind of had to go something like this. This is how the year would go. So I'd start off light, and I'd bump it up in the middle months. And then at the end, I would kick it up into high gear. It's just like a little staircase. How hard could it be to just walk up the stairs? No big deal, right? But then, funniest thing happened. Those first few months, they came and went, and I couldn't quite do stuff. So we had an awesome new revised plan. But then those middle months actually went by, and I didn't really write words. And so we were here. And then 2 months turned into 1 month, which turned into 2 weeks. And one day I woke up with 3 days until the deadline, still not having written a word. And so I did the only thing I could. I wrote 90 pages over 72 hours, pulling not one but 2 all-nighters. Humans are not supposed to pull 2 all-nighters. Sprinted across campus, dove in slow motion, and got it in just at the deadline. I thought that was the end of everything. But a week later, I get a call. It's the school. And they say, "Is this Tim Urban?" And I say, "Yeah." And they say, "We need to talk about your thesis." And I say, "Okay." And they say, "It's the best one we've ever seen." That did not happen. It was a very, very bad thesis. I just wanted to enjoy that one moment when all of you thought, "This guy is amazing." No, it was very, very bad. Anyway, today I'm a writer, blogger guy. I write the blog Wait, But Why? And a couple of years ago, I decided to write about procrastination. My behavior has always perplexed the non-procrastinators around me, and I wanted to explain to the non-procrastinators of the world what goes on in the heads of procrastinators and why we are the way we are. Now, I had a hypothesis that the brains of procrastinators were actually different than the brains of other people. And to test this, I found an MRI lab that actually let me scan both my brain and the brain of a proven non-procrastinator. so I could compare them, and I actually brought them here to show you today, and I want you to take a look carefully to see if you can notice a difference. And I know that if you're not a trained brain expert, it's not that obvious, but just take a look, okay? So here's the brain of a non-procrastinator. Now, here's my brain. There is a difference. Both brains have a rational decision maker in them, but the procrastinator's brain also has an instant gratification monkey. Now, what does this mean for the procrastinator? Well, it means everything's fine until this happens. So the rational decision maker will make the rational decision to do something productive, but the monkey doesn't like that plan. So he actually takes the wheel and he says, actually, let's read the entire Wikipedia page of the Nancy Kerrigan-Tanya Harding scandal, because I just remembered that happened. Then we're going to go over to the fridge. We're going to see if there's anything new in there since 10 minutes ago. After that, we're going to go on a YouTube spiral that starts with videos of Richard Feynman talking about magnets and ends much, much later with us watching interviews with Justin Bieber's mom. All of that's going to take a while, so we're not going to really have room on the schedule for any work today. Sorry. Now, what is going on here? The instant gratification monkey does not seem like a guy you want behind the wheel. He lives entirely in the present moment. He has no memory of the past, no knowledge of the future, and he only cares about two things: easy and fun. Now, in the animal world, that works fine. If you're a dog and you spend your whole life doing nothing other than easy and fun things, you're a huge success. And to the monkey, humans are just another animal species he has to keep well slept, well fed, and propagating into the next generation, which in tribal times might have worked okay. But if you haven't noticed, now we're not in tribal times. We're in an advanced civilization, and the monkey does not know what that is, which is why we have another guy in our brain, the rational decision maker, who gives us the ability to do things no other animal can do. We can visualize the future. We can see the big picture. We can make long-term plans. And he wants to take all of that into account, and he wants to just have us do whatever makes sense to be doing right now. Now, sometimes it makes sense to be doing things that are easy and fun, like when you're having dinner or going to bed or enjoying well-earned leisure time. That's why there's an overlap. Sometimes they agree. But other times, it makes much more sense to be doing things that are harder and less pleasant for the sake of the big picture, and that's when we have a conflict. And for the procrastinator, that conflict tends to end a certain way every time, leaving him spending a lot of time in this orange zone, an easy and fun place that's entirely out of the makes sense circle. I call it the dark playground. Now, the dark playground is a place that all of you procrastinators out there know very well. It's where leisure activities happen at times when leisure activities are not supposed to be happening. The fun you have in the dark playground isn't actually fun because it's completely unearned, and the air is filled with guilt, dread, anxiety, self-hatred, all those good procrastinator feelings. And the question is, in this situation, with the monkey behind the wheel, how does the procrastinator ever get himself over here to this blue zone? A less pleasant place, but where really important things happen. Well, turns out that the procrastinator has a guardian angel, someone who's always looking down on him and watching over him in his darkest moments, someone called the panic monster. Now, the panic monster is dormant most of the time, but he suddenly wakes up anytime a deadline gets too close or there's danger of public embarrassment, a career disaster, or some other scary consequence. And importantly, he's the only thing that the monkey is terrified of. Now, he became very relevant in my life pretty recently because the people of TED reached out to me about 6 months ago and invited me to do a TED Talk. Now, of course, I said yes. It's always been a dream of mine to have done a TED Talk in the past. But in the middle of all this excitement, the rational decision maker seemed to have something else in his mind. He was saying, clear on what we just accepted? Do we get what's going to be now happening one day in the future? We need to sit down and work on this right now. And the monkey said, totally agree, but also let's just open Google Earth and let's zoom into the bottom of India, like 200 feet above the ground, and we're going to scroll up for 2.5 hours till we get to the top of the country so we can get a better feel for India. So that's what we did that day. As 6 months turned into 4, and then 2, and then 1, the people of TED decided to release the speakers. And I opened up the website, and there was my face staring right back at me, and guess who woke up? So the panic monster starts losing his mind, and a few seconds later, the whole system's in mayhem. And the monkey, who, remember, he's terrified of the panic monster, boom, he's up the tree. And finally, the rational decision maker can take the wheel and I can start working on the talk. Now, the panic monster explains all kinds of pretty insane procrastinated behavior, like how someone like me could spend 2 weeks unable to start the opening sentence of a paper and then miraculously find the unbelievable work ethic to stay up all night and write 8 pages. And this entire situation with the 3 characters, this is the procrastinator's system. It's not pretty, but in the end, it works. And this is what I decided to write about on the blog just a couple years ago. Now, when I did, I was amazed by the response. Literally thousands of emails came in from all different kinds of people, from all over the world, doing all different kinds of things. These were people who were nurses and bankers and painters and engineers and lots of PhD students. And they were all writing, saying the same thing. I have this problem too. But what struck me was the contrast between the light tone of the post and the heaviness of these emails. These people were writing with intense frustration about what procrastination had done to their lives, about what this monkey had done to them. And I thought about this, and I said, if the procrastinator system works, then what's going on? Why are all these people in such a dark place? Well, turns out that there's 2 kinds of procrastination. Everything I've talked about today, the examples I've given, they all have deadlines. And when there's deadlines, the effects of procrastination are contained to the short term because the panic monster gets involved. But there's a second kind of procrastination that happens in situations when there is no deadline. So if you want to have a career where you want to be a self-starter, something in the arts, something entrepreneurial, there's no deadlines on those things at first, because nothing's happening at first, not until you've gone out and done the hard work to get some momentum, to get things going. There's also all kinds of important things outside of your career that don't involve any deadlines, like seeing your family, or exercising and taking care of your health, working on your relationship, or getting out of a relationship that isn't working. Now, if the procrastinator's only mechanism of doing these hard things is the panic monster, that's a problem, because in all of these non-deadline situations, the panic monster doesn't show up. He has nothing to wake up for. So the effects of procrastination, they're not contained. They just extend outward forever. And it's this long-term kind of procrastination that's much less visible and much less talked about than the funnier, short-term, deadline-based kind. It's usually suffered quietly and privately. And it can be the source of a huge amount of long-term unhappiness and regrets. And I thought, that's why these people are emailing, and that's why they're in such a bad place. It's not that they're cramming for some project. It's that long-term procrastination has made them feel like a spectator at times in their own lives. The frustration was not that they couldn't achieve their dreams, it's that they weren't even able to start chasing them. So I read these emails, and I had a little bit of an epiphany that I don't think non-procrastinators exist. That's right. I think all of you are procrastinators. Now, you might not all be a mess, like some of us. And some of you may have a healthy relationship with deadlines. But remember, the monkey's sneakiest trick is when the deadlines aren't there. Now, I want to show you one last thing. I call this a life calendar. That's 1 box for every week of a 90-year life. That's not that many boxes, especially since we've already used a bunch of those. So I think we need to all take a long, hard look at that calendar We need to think about what we're really procrastinating on, because everyone is procrastinating on something in life. We need to stay aware of the instant gratification monkey. That's a job for all of us. And because there's not that many boxes on there, it's a job that should probably start today. Well, maybe not today, but you know, sometime soon. Thank you.
Well, what do you think about that video? Any thoughts? Anything that you can put on the chat? Um, okay, so procrastinate means to delay, postpone, uh, put off something, right? Let me just type it. I'm just put it here. Okay, delay or postpone action. Yeah. So the message is do it today, correct? So so I just want us to just talk about, of course, the content of what was discussed, but also about the presentation, especially since we are talking about biblical preaching. Now about the presentation aspect, right? Okay, Lubega says he's good at dramatizing facts and keeping the engaging, I guess, keeping the action of this audience. Okay, I guess what you mean is keeping them engaged, keeping the attention, of the audience. Yes, yeah. So it's the topic is, of course, procrastination, why people procrastinate, and so on. Which one can take an approach, right? Okay, what is the definition of procrastination? Like I said, the procrastination is delay or postpone action or put off something, and talk about, okay, why do people procrastinate, etc. But then he took a very creative approach at talking about the same thing. Maybe a lot of people have spoken about it. There are a lot of self-help books on it, but then he just took a completely different approach, which was funny. I think that's how he is personally, personality wise, which was very humorous and also very, very creative. All these characters about those brain scan and the brain of a procrastinator, non-procrastinator, that instant gratification monkey, the panic monster. This is what normally happens. So people could actually relate to it immediately. And so it really, like Lubega shared, it really, caught the attention of the audience, which otherwise, if we had taken the other approach, would have been a little boring, right? Um, without these visuals, without these these kind of the way in which he presented it would have been a little boring. Yeah. What else? What else did you notice? What else did you observe? Um, about what we yeah, sorry, somebody said something.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jeffrey.
yeah. I liked how he did the presentation funnier. Like the
Mm,
words here, but the way he expressed it was good. Like he was
mm,
talking about real MRI of a brain, and we were all expecting the real MRI of a brain, like what he did, and something else, something that is out of context flashes out.
yeah, just
And
cartoon, right? Yeah. Mm,
that actually grabbed our attention, I think.
mm,
And I also like the flow he went throughout. Like
mm,
he also didn't have any notes, I think. Just like in a classroom, he
yeah.
also didn't have notes. He was encouraging his audience, and that was good.
Right. So, the clothes he wore, the physical appearance, how he carried himself, didn't have any notes, which because that was the nature of content. So that again, helps. So he did that. what did he say? Okay, the whole creative approach, right? So he said, I went for an MRI, and this is what it is. And then he showed, absolute, different thing. It was just a cartoon, hand drawn cartoon. It looked like. So that was it. Um, yeah. What else? What else did you observe? What else did you notice? I thought he used the charts really well, even though they were funny. Right? All the visuals, the charts that he said, about time taken for work and work done. Those charts, he used it really, really well, very effective. So the visuals were spot on. Um, it was very effective. So if you noticed, it was actually a very serious topic, right? It was a very, very, yeah, Lubega says it was great at connecting with the audience daily lives. Yes. He's very creative in visuals. Yes, Subhashish. Yeah. So if you just think about it, it's a very, very serious topic in the sense which has far-reaching consequences, right? If you actually get it, well, you could fail in an exam, you could lose a job, you could lose a deal, um, because that's how it is. Like if you're a chronic procrastinator, person who postpones things over and over again, it actually affects your productivity, right? So the thing is, it's a very serious topic, right? But then he actually shared something which was very, very valuable about not procrastinating. So it wasn't like, okay, how not to procrastinate. He didn't get into the details of it, but it was just a very inspirational talk about, okay, identifying the fact that, okay, I could be doing this. He also spoke about the far-reaching consequence of it if there are no deadlines. If you're just, deadlines are not expected, but if you keep procrastinating, maybe about your health, about your marriage, about your thing, these things could actually, they could be detrimental in life. There could be consequences, but then you realize, hey, it's 20 years, 30 years have gone by, and then you're still a spectator. That's the word he used. You're a spectator towards your whole life going in front of you, right? So it's a very thing, and very serious topic, but the way he did it with humor allowed us to, without defending ourselves, right, to actually connect, to receive what he was saying, because there was so much practical wisdom in it, and the way he did it, it just allowed us, our response was, yes, that is true. And if we were people who were procrastinating, I could identify that, with how I prepared for my 12th standard exams. And I used to have those schedules, and 6 months in advance put those timetables, and this subject will have 1 month for this subject, and so on. But then ultimately it came down to 1 week, and the 2 days, 3 days, and absolutely. So I could really relate to that. So it's very, very relatable, the challenge that people who delay face. So but the thing is, it just left us with this inspirational thing. Yes, things can change, especially you just nailed it down to, okay, there is this instant gratification monkey, there is this panic monster. So these are things that were really going on in our emotions, right, based on which we make choices. I just want to live in the present. I want to just feel good, so I'm going to do all this, and not think about the hard work. So the way he put it, fun and easy, and then hard work. So we make those compromises. I don't want to think about the hard work. I want to dwell in the fun and easy section. So at least those identifications, right? This is what is causing problems, and he communicated that, but he communicated that in a very creative way. So those are takeaways for us. Some lessons for us. Okay, I know this is the, as a believer, as a proclaimer of truth. Okay, we know that this is the problem. This is the thing, but can we can we ask God for creativity? Can we ask God, depending on the audience, of course, can we ask God to creatively share this in a different way without diluting the truth, without compromising on what the truth is, like, so that it can be received to an audience who may be, who may be in another if you use another approach, who may be close to the idea, but then now, since you've taken this approach, they are open to the idea, they are approachable and accessible, and they are open to receiving, because they see it as something that is of value to their lives, right? So yeah, so some of these things that I could kind of make think about that he was talking. So any other things that you noticed, observed? Any other? Okay, so what I'd like to do is just share one. Sorry, just a minute, please. Yeah, I just want to share an evaluation form. Okay, so that might be useful for, like, especially if you're preparing, you can actually take a look at it. Okay, and you can see, okay, um, for this particular talk that I'm preparing for, the sermon, this message that I'm preparing for, okay, maybe I can just consider all this. It's actually an assessment form. Okay, so you could take a look at it. Let me just share that with you. I'll also upload it on our resource section, so you can refer to it. Right. So let me just share this. Okay, so this is something we can see. Okay, the approach that we are taking for our message that we are sharing, sermon. Is it something inspirational, something of like a prophetic word, or is it like a free flow, random, touching upon different topics, not really having like a flow of things, structure? Is it a devotional? Like, is that approach something about observation, interpretation, application? A devotional is like that, like just one thought. Is it a verse by verse study, like maybe a complete book study kind of a thing? Is it a character study, a biographical study, a topical study? It could be a thematic study, a word study. Like topical and thematic are basically almost the same, one and the same. Topic would be a well-defined topic. Theme would be something. It could be a broader category, right? Okay, a chapter summary. It could be a chapter analysis. It could be a book background method or a book survey method, book synthesis, and so on. Okay, so this could be. You could say, okay, do I want to take any of these kind of approaches? Okay, when I'm sharing, then the other thing that you can think about is, okay, hermeneutics. Okay, so if it is, of course, our class presentation, which we'll be getting into maybe in a couple of weeks, is going to be about 12 minutes, right, at the most. So we may not have time, but then these are some things when you're preparing for a message to think about in future, right? The cultural context, the biblical typology, a biblical illustration, biblical grammar, allegorizing, right? So these are some things that we already studied. So some things to remember. Okay, can I share this context, the cultural context of whatever we are sharing, whatever the truth we are declaring, the cultural context of it, what is the biblical typology, the symbolism of it, is there an illustration, a story that is in there in scripture that I could share, and also, biblical grammar. Sometimes, when we look at the book of Proverbs, it talks about, okay, four things that 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 really what is that word? There are four things that disappoint, or four things that we are in amazement of, or five things. This is four things. There are five that the world cannot tolerate. Right? Four things that that person cannot tolerate, or world cannot tolerate, and then immediately it talks about five. Something like a hyperbole, right? So four, and then it talks about the five things, and lists down five things. So biblical grammar, and allegorizing, meaning it's like a story, and in a story form, which is symbolic in nature and shares the truth. Okay, so you can think of all these things. Okay, when it comes to delivery, okay, here are several things to consider. The introduction as a title, and when you're presenting the title and the introduction, does it generate interest? What is the relevance of the topic and the message? Is it relevant for today? Is it relevant for the audience? Is it something that is totally irrelevant? In terms of illustrations, relevance of topic to the audience, and then the exegesis. Exegesis is what we do to research the scriptures, take the text and look at the meaning of the text, the meaning of some certain words in the text, etc. Right? So the structure of the message, doctrinal accuracy, clarity of truth, the content of those, the word content, application, length and duration, all this would come into exegesis of scripture. Right? Then the physical aspect of the presentation, which is gestures and posture and eye contact, engaging with the audience, the speed of speech or the rate of speech, modulation of voice, impact on audience, grammar, pronunciation of the language that we use. Right? Another thing, anointing and gifts, flow of the Spirit, manifestation of gifts, the revelation and wisdom. Then personal life testimony is what I'm sharing. Is if it is backed by personal life testimony, maybe certain aspects of it. It needn't be everything, but certain aspects of it. Then it has, of course, a lot more impact. Personal conviction of truth that is presented. Right? And leading people to respond to the message. So some of these things, this is actually an evaluation or a assessment sheet, which you could use when you're preparing for future messages or presentations. Right? You'll find it very helpful, and to assess yourself, do a self-assessment. You could use that. So I will put this up, and you can go through it at leisure. Okay, so we'll stop here. So when we meet on Thursday for Thursday's class, we'll do one more exercise of observing, and then looking at some more thoughts on the presentation, and then for the following week onwards. So also for e-learning students, I'll also put up some instructions on uploading of videos, so you can prepare your talk, your message, and I'll be sharing some instructions on how to shoot the video and how to upload the video. So this is for e-learning students. It'll be there. Instruction will be there by the end of this week, right? So otherwise, from next week onwards, that is from 8th onwards, 8th of November, online students, we will start with our presentations, right? So I know you've been preparing, or you can start working on those messages, on those topics that you're already shared, and start preparing for that. Right, so you can prepare for online students, you can prepare for and e-learning, you can prepare for 12 minutes, after which we could discuss a few things and then move on to the next person. Right. Okay, so we'll stop here. And any questions whatsoever? Any questions? Anything that you might have? Any clarifications? Any questions at all? Okay, fine. So we'll close here, and for biblical preaching, we'll meet again on Thursday. Okay, thank you.